It's pretty early in the morning. People in the house are still asleep. I'm gonna try and get out and do my first driving impressions of the 034 Motorsport Stage 1 ECU and TCU tune. We'll keep this one pretty simple, kind of like a blog style or vlog style. And then we'll have some additional videos to come soon. Where do I start? We've got the 034 Motorsport Stage 1 TCU and ECU tunes on the B9 S5 Sportback right now, and I've been driving around on it for a couple of days, so this video is going to cover my first kind of initial impressions. I've been to and from the office a couple of times, which is a little bit of a drive, and I've gone and got some 0 to 60 runs. And that's about all I can do as far as like some of the draggy times, because we live in a pretty hilly area, and even getting out somewhere where we can get a verified 0 to 60 run can be difficult. So today's video is going to be fairly straightforward and simple, no fancy editing or cutting or anything like that. I'm just going to try and keep it me telling you what my initial impressions are, and maybe a little bit of comparison to the APR and Unitronic tunes. If you're watching our tune comparison series, stay tuned. We're getting this on the track. July 9th, we'll be back at the track with this tune. We just completed the APR tune at the track, and we're gonna get APR on the dyno here on the, I think on the 8th. But we may get this one on the dyno the same day. We'll see if we can get both of them at the same time. So anyways, initial driving impressions with 034. First of all, having tried all three tunes on 93 octane, they're all different. There's definitely different strategies going on with the three tunes. So I think, you know, you guys have noticed maybe I have a little bit of bias toward Unitronic over APR in the initial series, and there's a good reason for that. One is, you know, have to go into Oct Tuning, my local tuner, which, by the way, if you're a local you know, Pacific Northwester and you need a good shop, I trust those guys with all the Audis in our family. We've sent the Q7 there, we've had the B9 S5 there, we've had my A4. They did a bunch of work on that to keep it on the road, do 140,000 miles, all good stuff. I had that car was Stage 2 APR, and then a few other things, and it was a nice fun car, but I can't say enough great things about the folks at Oct Tuning, and the Hartman wheels that they offer. I've got their flow forms on. They're 9.5 inches, 20-inch rims, and they've got an offset of 25, and I think there's no weight penalty there. I think they look great, and I think there's a huge advantage to putting these tires on your car, or these wheels on your car. Anyways, so you can check all that stuff out on my mod list on the website if you have questions about who to contact or where to buy stuff. So, full disclosure, 034 sent us this tune and just said, get it in your comparison series, tell us your first impressions, give us any of the feedback you can, and share your experiences with everybody. So that's what I'm doing here. We are just going to be driving around the neighborhood. I'm warming up the car right now as I'm kind of doing this long-winded intro. So APR is like, I keep saying, it's kind of like an on-off switch. We saw this in the dyno comparison between the two tunes, APR and Unitronic, and you know, they definitely mess with the throttle mapping. They definitely mess with the you know, the exhaust valves in the exhaust system, and then of course they have no like cable or at-home tuning option. So those are the things that have kind of made it my least favorite tune so far. And I paid full price for the APR one, but had they given it to me for free, my feedback would have been the same. When I'm driving around town with the family in the car, the exhaust valve thing makes the car sort of obnoxious even in comfort mode at times. It definitely changes the tune. There are times when it sounds absolutely amazing on APR. You know, when you're ripping down the track, you're sitting next to a V8 and your car sounds every bit as raucous as theirs. Not all of the cars, but you know, that's a pretty cool thing. But if you're just driving up the hill and your car sounds like riding in a boat or a helicopter, and you've got the, you know, just that loud noise behind you, it gets a little bit annoying. And my wife definitely notices a difference between all of the tunes. We went on a drive last night, and it was the third time she said, she's like, what did you do to the car now? It's quieter again, right? And we've been driving around on APR for the last month or so, and when as soon as we put the APR tune on there, she noticed and said, what'd you do to the exhaust? It sounds like you did something to the exhaust, and we hadn't. 034 and Unitronic have a lot more similar. They're both smooth, they're both quieter to drive. I would say 034 is probably, you know, in dynamic mode, the quietest, which isn't a bad thing. There's no crazy pops and bangs like you get with Unitronic. There's no overall like just sound of higher RPMs and you know, open exhaust valves that you get with APR. It is a really good all-around tune, this 034. Unitronic is like super smooth and then really controllable. So like when you want to get into it, you get into it, and you can feel that the car is uber responsive. But if you're just driving around, you know, the throttle inputs are more stock-like, whereas 034 is sort of the middle ground between APR and Unitronic in that respect. You can tell they've messed with the throttle mapping because it's really responsive. The launch strategies between the three are vastly different. 034 has done some magic with the TCU. So the cool thing is like when I used to do the launches with both APR and Unitronic, I would get massive wheel spin. And so conditions had to be just right for me to get my best 0 to 60 times. That being said, I don't think 0 to 60 is where 034 is going to be, you know, shining. And I also don't think that, you know, we use the 0 to 60 and the quarter mile and the dyno. We use these because there's something we can measure. There's something that gives us all an idea about how a tune is going to perform. But it is not the entire story about how a tune performs. Daily driving has such an impact on everything. I think, you know, depending on the kind of driving you do, you know, you're gonna look at the different characteristics of the tune, and that's gonna play a role in how you approach, you know, your decision. Now 034, because of the TCU, and they've been able to raise the torque limiter that's on the TCU and get a little bit more torque out of the engine. It's not like APR, where APR, when you launch, it's like an on-off switch. Even when you're just driving around, like I've gone over speed bumps or hit a bump in the road, barely hit the throttle on with my foot, and you know, you get some of this going on at times with APR. Unitronic and 034, you don't get that. But with regard to the 034 launch, they've actually dialed back the torque a little bit on your initial takeoff, and then you can feel it really kick in. So it almost feels a little bit turbo laggy, but the result is you get better grip out of the hole, and you can feel this thing pulling much harder, even up a hill, all the way through to redline. And even when you hit redline and you hit that shift, you feel like it wants to keep going a little bit. Now Unitronic has a similar characteristic, but I don't think Unitronic has quite as much torque on it. We also noticed in the dyno graphs between APR and Unitronic that the torque hit really early, a couple of hundred RPMs earlier in the APR compared to Unitronic, and I'll be interested to see how this one stacks up, if we see something similar in the torque graphs on my car when we get to the dyno. But here's where I've been having a lot of fun with 034. So I've been driving around in comfort mode. It is quiet, it's comfortable, going up and down hills under load. My family is going to be extremely excited that the car is not like super obnoxious just driving around in comfort mode. So now we're going to go into dynamic here, and we'll have a little bit of fun. But 034, what I've noticed with this and what the TCU tune has been able to accomplish is a lot of fun. So when we're driving and we're going into a turn and coming out of a turn, and if you've never been on a road course, this is actually really important for a road course, because you roll into that power. It's a really linear feeling, and it's a really controllable feeling, but man, does that torque just like get in there and push you in a really controllable manner. APR, again, like an on and off switch. Like when you come out of a turn on APR, you've got all the torque right away, and you can feel your tires clawing for grip. And that's fun. It's a visceral feeling to drive. But I think 034, with the way they've tuned this car, would net you faster times at the track. Now, we will be getting on road courses eventually with all these tunes, and we'll see if that's actually the case. But right now I've got a nice twisty road that I'm gonna hit, and I've got it in dynamic mode, and we're just gonna have a little bit of fun here. Okay. You can rapidly, I'm not saying I did, but you could rapidly exceed the speed limit. The torque on this tune is something else. I'm having a lot of fun with it. And again, it's so crazy to me to compare all the different tunes, because they're just different. But here, like, you know, the lag is almost it's just non-existent almost. I mean, if you're driving through and you get your foot into it, you know, even though it's not that immediate like whack like you get with APR, God, it is just such a push in the back. And you don't even really, like, if you never had another tune and you got 034, I think you'd be extremely excited about it. And the fact that you can also do the flash at home like you can with the Unitronic, the fact that you got an E85 file ready for you to try. We are going to be getting E85. Some of you may have seen the video I posted of, in fact, I'll post it here. Went up against a M4 on Wednesday night. Had the APR Stage 1 tune loaded up then. Had a pretty good showing against it. A little bit weird on my reaction time. He actually got a little bit ahead of the first yellow light on the tree and kind of threw me off for a second, but still put down I put down an 11.91 and he did a 10.97, and he was on E85, highly tuned. The car was awesome. Dude is super cool. He actually works at an Audi dealership. So Tony, I'll give you a shout out, man. So we ran this, and I immediately, you know, the competitive nature comes out, and I'm like, I gotta get E85 on this car. Even in the current state, I gotta see what this does. And talking with Nick from 034, he said there's just one warning with E85. When you go to that tune, you put the E85 in your car, he's like, you're just not gonna want to go back. He's like, there's nothing that you're gonna be, you know, you're just not gonna want to go back. So the only other tuner that I know of right now that has the E85 tune, I think, is EPL. And EPL, we haven't tested their tune. We would like to. We fully intend to at some point. You know, we'll either buy it, or maybe they'll kick us a tune. We do have 2 other tuners coming onto the series here shortly, and I'm just going through a short resi area, and then we get some more twisties up here and we'll talk about 034 some more. So in dynamic mode, you can hear the engine behind me. honestly pretty tame, even when you get into it. If I was an APR right now driving around like this, every time I'd slow down for a stop sign, you'd hear the pop, pop, pop in the back. And, you know, at 8:30 in the morning going through this area, people might look at me like I'm a dipshit. So, so I kind of appreciate the stealthiness of this tune a little bit. You do get pops every once in a while, pops and bangs, and it's fun when they happen. It's not that you don't get any of that. It's just, it's not as prevalent as APR and Unitronic. And Unitronic, by the way, has an epic crackle part, right? So like, you get that whenever you're driving around in dynamic, and even sometimes if you're in, you know, drive mode and comfort, you'll get some of those. So just a lot of fun there, but just a little bit different experience. So we got somebody on a bike here coming up, so I'm gonna be very respectful driving around at this point in time and say hi. All right, so God, it is so much torque. I can't wait to get this to the dyno and see how much it actually is. But as you can see, it goes like stink. And with the transmission just holding your shift points right where you want them, I mean, it's so crazy. Miles per gallon is every bit worth it. By the way, we're going uphill on a lot of these pools, and it's still yanking me back in my seat pretty good. I don't know how to explain the joy I feel, but that is a great run. It's so much fun. The car is so responsive. Feels really controllable. It does exactly what you want it to do. Man, sounds great, drives great. I gotta spend some more time with it, but that's my initial thoughts for now. There's 17 minutes of me talking about this tune. About that launch though. Let's see if we can get just a really quick one. All right, here's a little bit more about the driving experience and what I've noticed. So throttle response is very controllable. Coming out of a turn, it's easy to measure and does exactly what you expect the car to do. In comparison with APR, again, you know, I feel like so much of the throttle mapping has happened where the first 20-25% of the pedal gets you 85% of what's available for throttle, so it just doesn't feel quite as linear. Here, they've adjusted it so that your throttle response is on point, and then, you know, there's still, as you push down on the gas pedal, you still know where your shift points are going to be. If you're just cruising along, you can still feel like, okay, I'm giving it more, I'm getting more. As you leave your foot, you know, in certain places, you get the throttle response that you expect. That's one thing that I'm really impressed about with this tune. I'd say it's similar. Unitronic is very similar in that way, but Unitronic probably doesn't give you as much of the initial throttle response as 034 does. So that cuts down any impressions of lag. And by the way, all these are really fairly subtle differences. And I would say the most drastic one is APR compared to Unitronic and in 034 Motorsport. And 034 to me right now feels the most controllable with regard to throttle response, and just, you know, makes me feel like I know exactly what I'm gonna get, where I place my foot in the throttle, and for driving a nice, fun, twisty road or a road course, that's really, really important. If you're just looking at 0 to 60 times, if you're just looking at quarter-mile drag times, again, that doesn't tell you the whole story of any of these tunes. That's pretty much, you know, we're gonna launch it, we're gonna go in a straight line, you're just gonna mash the gas pedal to the floor and see what happens, and hold on. But if you're gonna go driving and you know, you want to enjoy the twisties, no doubt you can do it with all 3 tunes. And if you're coming from stock, you'll be really pleased with any one of them that you choose. But the reality is, we're here doing comparisons and telling you our experience with each of them. And you know, it's just different. If any biases from my perspective seem to come through, they're just my honest reaction. What I think is cool, you know, I'm not here to tell you what tune you should buy. I'm just here to tell you what my experiences are. And I'll honestly answer any question. If you guys want to hit me up in the comments, or, you know, shoot us a DM on Instagram, or hit me up in Facebook and Messenger, you know, ask me whatever questions you need. Final thoughts are, you know, in this series, what we're going to try and do is our best just to explain our experiences with all of the tunes. Because the thing that surprised me the most is just how different they all are. You know, from launch strategies to, you know, to just everyday drivability and the features. We're going to get into the features at some point in a future episode too. So, like, you know, again, getting to launch strategies, there's a lot of torque in the 034, and there's a definite strategy as to how they release that on launch. The launch holds at about 3,300 RPMs, and you can hold it there for 8 seconds, up to 8 seconds, and then you can rip. And it's gonna be a good, consistent experience there. APR and Unitronic both, when you do the 2-step launch, you have got to time it just right. You have to, first of all, the launch points are different on both of them. If APR will let you go up all the way up to, I think, like 5,000 or 4,000 RPM, or just really close to it. And if you do that, you know, you're going to leave a bunch of rubber on the road behind you, and you're going to spin all 4 tires and go forward, and your times aren't going to be as good. Although to date, I do have my fastest times with APR 0 to 60. And again, I think part of that is just I had really good conditions, nice warm tires, and their strategy is just like, boom, here's all the torque right now, let's go. So my best time with APR currently is a 0 to 60 of 3.47 on 93. However, at the track in the quarter mile, APR was trapping about 2 miles per hour slower than Unitronic. Again, completely different strategies. Unitronic is a lot more linear. You launch it, you can hold it up to about 3,600 RPMs. Best launch point really on all of them is just above $3,000. And then Unitronic has just this strong linear pull all the way up to the top. APR, or sorry, 034 is, you know, you mash the pedals down, you build up to about 3,200-ish RPMs. It hits the point, your boost builds, and then when you're ready to go, sometime in that 8 seconds, you go. And there's this moment of, we're gonna get the grip we need, and then we're gonna shoot you out of a slingshot and give you all the torque. And again, the experience between the 3 different tunes and just the 0 to 60 launch is vastly different. And I don't know, like, I don't necessarily think one is better than the other. At this particular point in time, I'm just telling you how they are, and you can decide what sounds like more fun to you. But I'll tell you, it's more fun than you can have with a stock tune for sure, or just driving around legally. My big warning is you get a tune on this S5 platform and you're not gonna want to keep it on public roads. And the other thing that I have to say is, so with regard to 034, I've got a number of their products on this car. Some of the first videos I ever made included their transmission mount insert. I've got the front strut brace installed, and then I've got their dynamic springs. I went with H&R for my sway bars, but that mainly had to do with, you know, just my experience with the H&R sway bars on previous vehicles. And again, I still have to say, you know, those upgrades, along with the tunes and everything else, have combined to make this S5, and we do have a video that we'll be making this summer on this, but every bit as fun and good and stable as at least a stock RS5. Currently, my times are a bit faster. When I get behind the wheel, and I have driven one, I just haven't had extensive time behind the wheel like we get maybe coming up. But, you know, if you want to save the money and get an S5 and then build it up and have all that fun, I think you can absolutely, for about, you know, $5 or $6 grand, get it up to stock RS5 performance and maybe even slightly better. But it is, I'm really impressed with the 034 tune right now. So, you know, on that note, I'm going to stop driving around, go get my wife some coffee, and hopefully make up for the loud cold start that I had this morning